Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. Feel it in the air, summer's out of reach. Empty lake, empty streets, the sun goes down. Driving by your house, though I know you're not home. I can see you, bright skin shining in the sun. You got your hair pulled back, sunglasses on, baby. I could tell you my love for you would still be struck after the boys of Sunset Road. Never will forget those nights. I wonder if it was a dream. Remember how you made me crazy. Remember how I made you scream. Now I don't understand what I've been to all of. Baby, I'm gonna get you back. Gonna show you what I'm made of. I can see you, bright skin shining in the sun. I see you walking real slow, smiling at every word. I could tell you my love for you would still be struck after the boys of Sunset Road.
Politicians doing great, just be patient, have faith. Global warming so real, to the top gasoline. So true, so true. Finally, many fingers pointing at me, yelling just conspiracy. And I'm just out of box, still sign of Stevie Fox. At the end I wanna say, we just need to sit and pray. Hit me like a rocket, true, don't be no monkey. It's not logical, oceans on the ball. Staring like a moon in my H balloon overseas. Magic over gravity. Welcome to the hood. Reality of money world. Welcome to the hood.
Every time I hear that song, it makes me think of conspiracy. In case you didn't know, Common Sense, we are on air.
That's fine.
A couple tunes. I didn't know when you'd be here, when not. And usually, look, folks, I feel like we're going above and beyond right now because we usually come on 15, 20 minutes late. This is the problem, Common Sense. Changing stuff, and it's weird. Some of the things are weird. In the old days, as soon as I set up the stream, you've done streams before.
I have,
so
yes. I've done a couple.
You know how you push the button that says start stream on air, but then a window just pops up and you can select go live, go on air, start broadcast.
Yeah. Yep.
In the old days, when if you did the first thing and selected start streaming on air, your time would still say like we're going, because I've been wondering what's going on. We got people waiting, and for us, quite a few people today. It was 8 folks, and I'm looking, and I realized, oh, okay, they were actually waiting. So I went ahead and I I fired it up so that I had the shout out link and stuff. And for us, it's cool because we can talk beforehand.
Yeah.
Make a long story short. Now, when I push that, start Hangout on air, the first step, it says that now waiting for Ogre. So it no longer will tell you, oh, the stream will be on at 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. It doesn't, it won't, it just says now waiting for Ogre. And so I'm just now figuring this out from trial and error. So, it's going to be a bummer to us because what's going to happen is now I'll only hit that button with about 20 minutes to go. Yeah. So that it looks like we're late even then. But like I said, we're always about 15 minutes late. So whatever, people will be here. But that will still give us our, because people, common sense, please explain to them in your British way, because you can see I'm in a rambling mood. Explain to them that what we do here is not quite like talking to a mate at the pub, and tell them how that's different if you can. I know I threw you on the spot, but you can handle it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. What we generally try to do is we normally have a tendency to have sort of a show map. We have a discussion and topics. The way that we tend to try and do that is we try to decide what we're going to talk about beforehand. So we normally have 10-15 minutes before we come on to decide what stories we're going to actually talk about. We have discussions between ourselves, and then we will then go forward with those stories. Then what you see when we're in the stream is the stories that we've already pre-selected and the ones that we've decided. The reason why it's not the same as what it is to be talking like it is in a pub is these topics are not necessarily just come up at spur of the moment. I mean, we do go off in tangents. I am definitely known for going off in a good old tangent, and definitely for subverting the conversation.
That's why you're here, sir.
Yay. But that's the reason why it's different from a pub, because we try and structure the actual conversation and what we're actually trying to do, rather than just throw everybody in together at the deep end and try and work out a show. We have a structure to it. And even if it's a basic structure, it's still better than not having any.
Well, and I think I hate to get so conspiracy theory. You know how I am. That's where the way my mind tends, and it's not always, it's sometimes good, sometimes bad. But what I'm thinking is, I mean, good gracious, common sense. Do they realize that we want in this time, and that affects our algorithm? I mean, it's so nice when the thing pops up, because some of the dumb stuff I do, like what I just did, playing music. That doesn't attract us any more viewers. It really does. A bumper before, like, yesterday, a little tiny 5 to 15 second long little bumper, that's fine. But when people tune in to see the Common Sense Guy, they're coming because of what you just said. Ooh, that's Freudian slip. But they're here because of what you just said. They're participating because of the tangents you go on. They're not here to listen to music. I mean, I've tried these things on this platform that we've created, and all three of us. And anyway, so it is different. And we need this time. Why is this happening? I would really like to know. It seems petty, but it's just, for me, it's one more stone on top of the pile. It's like, wow, man. Now, if I push the button, you don't get the notifications, folks. I know some of you must have notifications. There's a handful of you out there that do, because as soon as we start live, a handful of you are here, whatever that number may be. In this situation, that handful comes Common Sense, and then when they see that it says waiting for Ogre, because I've done what I've described already, I'm not going to belabor this forever. They leave, because they're here to hear Common Sense go on a tangent. They're not here to be in the chat. There's a certain amount of people that are here for the chat only Common Sense. They don't care what we're saying. They don't care what we're talking about. I'm not going to say Captain Coalpile's one of those people, but he's kind of 50-50. He's here at the bar. To him, as he's described really nicely, we're the band at the bar. We're playing some tunes in the background, and he's there at the bar having a conversation with some other people. Anyway, I'm bummed out that is seems to be taken away from us, and I'm going to have to find another way for us to get together beforehand and chat. You see what I mean? In other words, I'll send you the link, and we'll be on Twitch or something, and be able to.
Let's not go on to Twitch. Twitch ever.
Well, and I only pull that out of a hat. I don't mean we're going to stream on Twitch. I mean, I will send you a link somewhere where we can communicate. I can't use Gmail because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it won't let me do both. But anyway, we'll figure it out. And I just feel like it's robbing from us one of our basic tools that you described. We aren't just the guys at the bar. We are the band, and we need to get our instruments tuned beforehand and make sure we all, you know, are cool with the. And you know, we don't do censorship here. But Britt, yourself, myself, we like to make sure that we all want to talk about it. That's not censorship, is it, Common?
No, it's not censorship. No, but what I meant by censorship is we censor ourselves sometimes. That's what I was trying to mean. It's like, for instance, like yourself, I'm kind of not a salt of the earth type of guy because I hate that. I hate that terminology. But I'm quite a common bloke, and I normally swear in every other sentence. So for me to come onto a live stream like this and then not being able to swear is very, very hard for me. That's why sometimes I'll lose my train of thought, especially when I'm going on a very long tangent. Because all I want to do is swear at some point, and then I have to think and change direction of where I was going because I can't use a swear word, because I'm censoring myself, not because I don't think the chat can handle it, or not because I don't think Ogre or whoever cannot handle it, but because I want it to be a decent show. I want it to be able to show that I'm speaking my mind and not trying to speak authoritatively to anybody, to say that this is the way I feel and this is the way you should feel as well. I definitely don't want anybody to feel that, so I try to speak in plain English.
Well, and you can't look. There's a reason we don't cuss, because you know I get on my rambles, and no, on this church that we do on our daily show. No, we don't really. You know, when we have guests on and whatnot, of course we tolerate anything. And on Police State, that's a rated R show. That is not a it's not a family friendly show. But what you know, the idea, the reason, of course, common sense, you know, just let me explain it to the people, is we don't want folks to come in and say, well, of course, common sense had a good idea, but listen to the language he used. We don't need that. And so when we come to our, and nowadays philosophy is even being torn down, common sense. I mean, we have.
Everything's being torn down at the moment, mate. Not just philosophy, not just psychology. Every form of science is even being torn down. There's more than two genders. I proved in a video before that gender is just an expression of sex. And that's in the bloody Oxford and Cambridge dictionary.
Yeah, because now you're talking about identity versus biology. It's a big difference. Well, let me ask you if I may.
That's the sad thing. The dictionary doesn't classify it as that. The gender in the dictionary still classifies it as determining somebody else's sex. It's just a different descriptive term used. It still says that. It doesn't say that it's a descriptive term of your identity.
Oh, no, I don't think it is descriptive of identity. That's the battle.
Yes.
But when I was going through that, and when I think of philosophy, I kind of, do you ever watch stuff on Molyneux?
I do sometimes. I used to watch him quite religiously. And then I've watched a couple of things I've disagreed with him on, and I've moved away, so to speak. But I still watch him every now and again, especially when he has half-decent guests on.
See, this is the part where we're not just guys at the bar, because I kind of know I've heard him talk about it before. So what I'm trying to get at is, when I say philosophy, I look at right now psychology on YouTube is well represented with Dr. Peterson. Jordan Peterson. He is, man.
Yep, definitely.
I've studied psychology a large portion of my life. I was in school for it, and I mean, that's one of my loves. So I read books that will put most people to sleep in studies and things. I mean, most people will get through 5 paragraphs. They're snoring, and I just want to know if this really does affect people the way they say it's going to. And I would say that I'm like you. We had a good representative on the philosophy side and stuff on Molyneux here in our genre and what we do. And I feel like he's fallen to the wayside, man. I mean, I don't know if, I don't want to call him Alex Jones, but more and more often he has this producer picking people to come on the show. I just watched this thing about don't call me a baby boomer. And you're aware that's a generation here in the United States. And oh my goodness,
it's
from
also
the very
a generation named aptly in the UK as well. I presume it would be almost everywhere. The baby boomer is obviously for just after the Second World War.
right. And then to give you a chance to speak on this, and the way they, from the very start, it was a fight. He picked someone that left a comment that was inflammatory and derogatory, and then it was a fight. And I watched the Britishers, the last thing he did with the live stream, and I made it. We both made an appearance. I was slightly honored. I don't know about you, but I was slightly, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but I was slightly honored.
I enjoyed his latest video. Yes, I very much so. I get to call him and twat. I love that video.
and you liked it. You were in there. I mean, you said you were in there. But that's the issue. I mean, it's why have a philosophy show if what you do is pick out of an inflammatory comment and bring someone on to attack their position? Because she said he had mommy issues and all this stuff. Look it up. I mean, he's very popular. I'm sure some of you have seen that baby boomer thing from Stefan. And that's, look, there's a time and a place for everything. I'm not for Google censorship, but man, I've been racking my brains common sense and recent events that you're privy to, but no one else is. I mean, I've been thinking, what do I want to do? And when I first started here on this in this realm, my idea was to have pretty much a conspiracy channel. I'm not even right. And look, see what I mean? And right now I said, and to talk about things I'm not even going to bring up right now. And so but honest to God, my original intention is something I don't even want to bring up at the moment, because there's a time and place for everything. And if you're going to have a philosophy channel, then stick to philosophy. And if you're going to claim to be a guru, then be a guru. There's people I watch you too, and I'm about out of breath. I'm not really out of breath, but I know you must want to say something about this, because I've seen you and Britt are myself. I'm more of a troll. That's why I'm the laughing ogre. I usually poke and prod at people and want to get in a ding dong on Twitter. You two gentlemen kind of go after the academic ideas of people. Howbeit your methods are different, you still I'm still a ball in the china shop when it comes to expressing my opinions. Well, you do fine. And just to lead you on and to shut up, Stefan Molyneux has jumped the shark. Well, especially in that video, as you were talking about, when he was just basically attacking the baby boomer generation just because he didn't agree with what Stefan said. It's like, if you didn't agree with what he said and you just wanted to pull him up on it, why didn't you just do a small video about it? Why did you have to go after the actual person and denigrate the actual person? Surely, being a philosopher, you would understand that you don't actually go on after the person. You always go after the person's ideas. Because to kill the person's ideas, you have to kill the idea. Just because you kill the person doesn't mean the idea is dead. And as a philosopher, surely that would be your first bet in your head. That's one of the first things you learn. Is like, you can't kill an idea by killing the person. You have to kill the idea by dismantling the idea. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm not too happy with Stefan. Not because he doesn't... When he's having an altercation with somebody, he used to do it where he just used to denigrate the idea and dismantle it solely. And I used to love him when he used to do that. But now I would like to say that he's adopted more of the left's terms, where he now just doesn't adopt the idea. He tries to destroy the person. Now, don't get me wrong, it's probably more of an entertainment purpose for people in general, but for me, it was never my intention, my idea to be able to do something like that. I never see the point in it. It's the same thing as what the British would say. I can hear him in my ear at this moment in time, in fact, saying to me, "Really, Mr. Common Sense guy?" No, sorry, that's the ogre's thing. But no, I can hear him in the back of my ear going, "Well, no, that's right. You don't actually go after the person, because if you're going after the person, you've lost the argument." I was always taught that at school. If you almost gave me a rupture, man. I'm going to keep muted, but I'm glad I was muted when you did that. I almost got a rupture with a sudden flood of laughter.
But no, that's exactly what I can picture in my head that the British are actually saying to me at this moment in time. No, you're absolutely correct. You don't go after the person because you've lost the argument. As soon as you go after the person, you've lost the argument. You haven't got one. I mean, I can see a lot of people actually coming up into the chat saying it's not an argument, which is true. I mean, that's one of his perfect phrases as well, isn't it? I mean, British actually used it quite well when he was using that video. It's not an argument. It's not an argument. And that's what I would say to him if he ever went after anybody on a personal level. It's not an argument. I think I'll pass that back.
No, and that's it. That's the I see. Okay, when I look at what's going on with Stefan Molyneux, that's the problem I have. And you explained it wonderfully. I'm going to go a little bit. I don't know if it's deeper, but I'm just going to agree with you in a different way. In the old days, he would never sound defensive. And what I think is happening is he's using leftist tactics, as you so wonderfully pointed out. He's using leftist tactics, but he's becoming more and more right. Look, people, we just had, I don't remember who it was, Common Sense, but somebody was saying something about everybody is dumb. Or I can't remember. It might have been on, I don't know if you were here or if it was on the Academic Agents channel, but they were talking about centrists. And On the Offensive considers himself a centrist. Oozaloo considers himself a centrist. The centrist Canadian considers himself a centrist. And those are the three people that I know. And they're not stupid, man. You know, because I hear a lot of stuff dismissed that way. Well, people that do that are stupid. They're dumb. Well, as far as I know, you can't say that, because if you just lump them all in one group, well, I do know three. And to be honest, they're the only three centrists I know. So right now, in my mind, in my anecdotal world, there's three there that represent 100% of centrists. You think what I'm saying, Common Sense? They're all intelligent.
But the thing is, as well, with the centrists, as you pointed out, all three of them have completely different ideologies. Yes, they all classify themselves as centrist, but On the Offensive is a completely different centrist to Oozaloo, and I'm assuming Oozaloo is completely different to the Canadian centrist.
Oh, yes. Three different chaps have never been, for sure. Yeah, well, just to wrap up and give back to, it's when I look at Stefan, and this is not a takedown thing. We didn't even have a chance to plan this. This just came about. I'm just getting more and more disappointed in some of these bigger names. I feel like Lionel Nation is bringing it back now, but it wasn't just like 2-3 weeks ago. I watch him religiously. And come on, man, look, we all have to guard ourselves from just spouting and spewing the party line. In the case of Stefan Molyneux, and using the leftist tactics of personal attack. You know, you're stupid. You don't understand. History will show you to be dumb. You know, things you can't argue. Very subjective arguments. And to use them in this right leaning way, well, I don't like it, because for the time being, the right has logic on its side more often than not. They are the party.
Depending on how far, but yes, generally.
Well, but I'm just, and here I'll give it right to you when I say this. They are the party of, we don't want puppy dogs to be euthanized, but sometimes it's the best thing. Let's not kill baby children, baby humans. That's.
Well, yeah, okay. Supposedly going on to adoption, going on to the idea of abortion and things like that.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
I'm quite happy. No, I'm quite happy going on to that. I'm quite happy going on to abortion, simply because a lot of people wouldn't understand. Not understand. Sorry, wrong word. A lot of people wouldn't know what I would be saying and what I've done, because I've never done a video on it and I've never even talked about it. So it's a quite good idea to be able to do it. The reason why I don't like abortion, I'll explain the reasons why I wouldn't want anybody to have an abortion, but there are exceptions. So before everybody goes screaming, going, "Oh, he doesn't want abortion," just let me explain my bit first. In a general theory, I don't believe that anybody should have the chance to have an abortion because of the sanctity of life. There are exceptions. For instance, being raped. For instance, very, very young, as in 13s, 14s, and 15s and things like that. I believe that you can do. But for people that are using it 2 to 3 times in a year because of contraception, because they couldn't be bothered to use contraception properly, no. And as for people having it late trimester and things like that, I'm sorry, but I just can't understand that. How do you not know that you're pregnant? A lot of people go, oh yeah, well you just don't. It's like, no, you choose not to look at the signs. Oh, but some people don't actually have periods. They keep on going on with their periods and things like that. So you're telling me that you're having cravings and you're getting heavier and fatter for no reason? Fair enough. Just because somebody doesn't show doesn't mean that they're not putting weight on. And as we all know, most women are going to be looking at their weight. I know my missus does. I'm sure other people's missus does as well.
Well, this is one of these times, Common Sense, where I'll leave it all to you on this, man. I used to work with a guy called the Hard Bastard a long time ago, and we did a collab on abortion, and it's still on my channel. I won't take it down, but it was a train wreck. And I'm not saying that what you're saying is you're actually eloquent on it, and I'm gonna leave it. What I'm saying is, brother, I'm gonna leave it to you because
no, that's fine. I mean, this is my
own
opinions
on it. Right, my opinions on it are what they sound like is Catholic Church, so I keep to myself. I mean, I just want to let me say one thing, and then I will shut up. And I hope you got a bell or something, because if it sounds crazy, man, tell me in mid sentence. I mean, this is how I feel. Be it rape, incest, man. If you could allow that human, and this is where I'm using feelings. I can't even spit it out without making a ton of excuses. So let me just say it. It's a human being. And if you could let them become 8, 10 years old and ask them if they enjoy their life and if they're glad they were born, I'm going to bet they'd say yes. And, all kinds of arguments is when is it, how, conception or what, I don't know. I'm not even going to go there. But the idea, and then Margaret Sanger, I mean, just look into it, folks, without me going on a ramble, just look into it. Look at why it started, what the goal of abortion in America was. Whether or not it's still that, it could have changed. But look at why they did it. And then look at 51% of a certain group in our country, Common Sense Guy, 51%.
It's not too far different from us.
51% is aborting their children before they're born in a certain ethnic group. And they talk about being racism. Look, my voice is lowering. I really feel pensive right now. I'm gonna leave it at that, because abortion is a wonderful thing. There's a time when, if a mother's life is in jeopardy and the choice is to have the baby born and get a chance to do what I said, to ask that child at 8, 9 years old if it enjoys its life, but yes. But if it would be at the peril, I mean, look at an old Catholic cemetery, Episcopalian cemetery, C of E cemetery, 100 years ago. Look at it, Common Sense. Go to your local cemetery, and I know you've got hundreds of them around you, close, guaranteed. And look at the old ones. You'll see so many gravestones next to each other that are mother and child. Now, they didn't have the science back then. What I would like to see is not too many of those in our modern graveyards. And that's the miracle and the wonder of abortion. I hate the word, because abort means to terminate a good thing. That's what abort means. Let's abort the mission. We had a mission. We had a good plan. It's time to abort it. It's time to cut it off. And there are times where it's not an abortion of a life. It's the saving of one of two. And if you had the choice, I know what you would choose. If you had 2 humans and you could choose between both of them dying or one living, I mean, I would think anyone with a brain or a heart would say, of course, we would all make the same decision. Sorry, that was so long. I said I wouldn't say nothing about abortion. There you go.
No, it's fine. It's not a problem. I mean, that's the thing about having these type of conversations. Everybody's going to have a different point of view. Everybody's going to think of a different way. And yes, this topic is mainly to do with feelings, because it has to do with what you would do in their situation. You're empathizing with what's going on. Especially as men, that's all we can do. we can only empathize. We can't empathize. We can't actually physically ever be in that position, apart from being a man in that situation and what we would do in that situation. But as I said, it's just the way that I feel. It's just, I believe that the sanctity of life is always at the beginning of conception. But I do think that there is exceptions. I do feel that with certain issues with young people that have been raped, molested, and things like that, they should have that option to be able to have that, because that's always going to be a reminder. And that's if they want it. That's if they want it, obviously.
And I'll tell you, I would have never guessed that you would have said at the conception. But yeah, I would have never guessed that. And that's a beautiful way to look at it, what you just said. There are exceptions.
Yeah. That's the way that I would look at it. For the way that people are using it at the moment, oh yeah, we're in our third trimester, but I don't want it anymore. The dad's left, so I don't want it anymore.
Should the father have any say? In other words, if you have someone pregnant and they just want to have an abortion, should you be able to step in and say, no, I will take the child on birth. You have no obligation whatsoever, and should that be allowed, or should that be considered?
I will answer the question, but I'll ask you a question back first and see what your answer is on this first. If I was going to give you a very bad disease, but you weren't going to die from it, and at the end of it, you would never see me again, and I'd give you a bit of money and everything else like that, would you take it? Remembering that this disease is going to be quite painful.
Well, no, so I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to answer it honestly. For myself, the answer is no. But there are people like Avi, a Jewish brother I follow on Twitter, that gave a kidney to a random person. Didn't know him. And so this is now, when you slip in the never see him again thing, but I want to make it clear, Avi is not like bosom buddies with this lady he gave a kidney to. And believe me, if they remove a kidney from you, it is you can die from the operation. People have died in kidney operations. And it is a very traumatizing thing. There's a period of recovery where, they've taken something out of your body. And if I've had surgery, anybody that's ever had surgery, or myself, I've been carjacked and beaten nearly to death. And I've wrecked my gold wing into a deer at 75 miles an hour. And I've had parts of my body crushed, and had to come back from that.
Yep.
Anyway, like you said, I tell you what, though, man, look, I'm not even gonna go there. You're very brave, Common Sense, and it's wonderful to hear these brave ideas. I would say that the whole idea that saying the male has some kind of right, or saying that if it wasn't rape, it wasn't incest, it's not going to kill the mother, that they should have it and allow someone else to raise the child, since there's such a desire right now for children, as there always has been, by people that have the means, and that should be very strict. I don't care what they call it about being exclusive or whatever. No, if you want to adopt a baby that will not know anyone but you, a baby, just out of the right there. No, you should make a lot of money. The child should have, it should be known that because there's such a demand. You get it, Common Sense? I'm not saying because that's the only way it should be. If people that were really well off didn't want babies and need them because they can't have their own or whatever, well, then I would say something else. But and we can see this happening too. Look at Angelina Jolie. And now it's coming out. Oh, man. And we'll get to the news. We are going to get to the news. This is our icebreaker, folks. We've got to do what we got to do.
Before we do move on, I'd just like to say.
Yeah, not yet. I was just saying. I was just letting everybody know we would get to it, because it says news in the low bar, and we may not get to it. Common Sense. I don't know. So carry on. To
be honest, I mean it in a nice way. I'm not always bothered about tackling the news anyway. I'd much rather talk about these type of issues. It makes me think of a hell of a lot more, rather than feeling so dang disappointed that these things are happening. But just to go back onto what you were saying, the reason why I asked you that question about if you would take on a disease for me and do it that way is because that's what you'd be asking a woman to do if a woman didn't want to have a child. You'd be asking the woman to have somebody that have a symbiotic relationship with themselves, to take half of the food that they're eating, to put on weight with them, to hurt their ankles, to hurt their knees, to make their breasts change, to change all of their configuration of their body and everything else like that, just to give away a child at the end. To me, I don't think any man. To me, I mean this in a nice way. I don't think any man has the authority to be able to say that to a woman.
But
It's the same as if I would ask you. No, it's the same as if I would ask you. I don't want, and I was a woman. I don't want to have kids anymore. I want you to get circumcised so you can no longer have kids anymore, for permanently.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, that's not circumcised, but that's vasectomy. But yeah, I understand what you said. I understood what you said. I shouldn't even have really brought it up. I just want everybody else to say whatever, make fun of it if you want, but we knew what you meant. I would just say this though, brother. The only way I would agree with you is if the woman in question had no idea that human coitus could lead to human conception. If that wasn't the case, I'd agree with you. But if the female understands that I could get with this person, even on a one-night stand, and then this human being would realize, holy crap, this one-night stand is going to culminate in a life, and I would like it. I'm talking about the male, of course. Nope. At that point, I still would say, yes, breasts, whatever, all these things. And believe me, listen, brother, I love kids' common sense. Paid for an abortion in 1991 with my first fiance. This is why it's important to me. At the time, I would have still paid for it. I would not have taken on the child. I wouldn't have done the things that I'm saying. This is why I believe it gives me the ability to speak to it. Because even though at the time I paid $350, that was a week's pay for me. That was my whole week was wiped out and I couldn't lose. I mean, that was a quarter of my finance and my budget for the month. I live in a very expensive city. I lived in a shit anyway.
Not that you paid it before we go any further. Not that you paid it and that it's fine and you had to do what you had to do. But just in general, the fact that a sanctity of life of a child, of a human being, is only worth 350 quid to that institution, the institution, is absolutely diabolical to me.
And listen, brother, I'm going to be honest with you. She was in her late. She was 6 months pregnant. She was showing. She was 6 months pregnant. Not even kidding. We put it off, and I in my heart, I was trying to talk her into because I was crazy. But when it came right down to it, and she had to make a decision that day, and we had to. I'm not going to lay it on her. I doubt she'd ever see this, and I will not say her name. I'll say that I had her initials tattooed on my arm, and it was LAW, law. That was her initials. And it caused me so much trouble in the circles I ran with that I had LAW. And I even would point out, like, look, there's no periods. I would say the name and say why it was on there. But I got that covered up. There's a huge tattoo that you've seen there. So anyway, it's good to have the option, I guess, but it's good to young people like myself and this human being. We were stupid. Well, why didn't we take some kind of something? We were young. We both knew it could lead to a pregnancy. I remember when it happened, I even asked her, can I do the, and the answer is no, always no. For all you, very quickly, comments is my man. For all you young people out there, my wife and I have been married for 24 years. For the first 13 years, she got her tubes tied, is what they call that. But tubal ligation, she got her tubes tied. But before that 13 years, we didn't have any children. She was on the pill. I guarantee you she never missed one because she did not want to have a child. And I never ejaculated inside of her vaginal cavity. And that's as clinical as I can say it. And I'm not going to say it again, any of you people, because as Common Sense pointed out in the beginning, this is a family show. And I believe that's being a family show. And I mean 13 and above. Because if you're 13 and above and you're starting to get pubic hair, you're going through puberty, and you're going to go out there and start putting your thing into things, and you're going to let people put things into things. It's about time that you should know that you are making a very serious decision. You could get a venereal. I mean, you're making a very serious decision. So as I hear the ahums, that's his way of saying that I'm not the person to tell you about it. So go and ask someone that knows, and be careful what you get into.
Yeah.
Sorry, Common Sense. I heard that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's just I don't. I think that most of the people in here know what we're talking about, and we don't need to go into that bit. The only thing that I would say is that Lorna 95 or Luna 95 says that's not the value of the child. That's the value of the operation. What does the operation do? It gets rid of the child. So technically, it's the value of the child. That's the reason why I put it in that particular way. And that's not
Well,
to
and
put
I
it
agree
on.
with you, common sense. I agree that it is the value of the child. That's it. You're putting a bounty. It's like a bounty, right? That's where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's just because it costs that much money to be able to do the operation. It's like saying that the cost of human life is the bit of the operation. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. That bit of life is costing 350 quid to snuff out, and it's acceptable, and not by the people that go there to pay it. I'm not saying that, because sometimes people have their own ways and their own ways of dealing with it. It may not be my way, but everybody has their ways of dealing with it. So I'd never blame the people. I'm blaming the corporations on that they would put the price down. And as Ogre said, that's not a month's wage. That's a week's wage back then. And yeah, I understand that that's still a hell of a lot of money. But it's still not there. If it was a bit higher, maybe that would deter people from
Oh
having
God,
the
you'd think for a
abortion.
human life it should have been like 5 years' wages.
Well, yeah,
I think that's where you're going with it.
What I'm trying to say. If it was more than a week's wage, maybe that would make you rethink about it. As in to think, well, it's going to cost me a lot of money to get this done. Maybe we can do this, rather than just going, oh, it's cheap and cheerful. And I don't mean that in a horrible way to any situation or any people that are in that situation. But if it's an option and you can afford it, you're going to go for it. But if you can't afford it, it's going to make you think just a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm getting things in the side about I'm looking right now because I went back and I was looking through the things like you must do, and someone just wanted to let you know that they loved they like the cut in. He said I'm looking right now, Kevin says, if you've seen it, shout out who it was. But they were like, because we're gonna mention 2 people a day, and this will be mine. They were like, I just loved it when the cat was like and I simply put in that's his job. That is his job too, and my job too. I mean, believe me, we both, because there's things that I love, and I'm not. He can't. I don't see him in the chat, and we're not going to have him on today anyway because this is our thing, and we got people come on from time to time, and if we have some individual come on often, pretty soon people think that whatever. And it's not that way. It's actually
Can
at
I
the
just
moment.
put one more point across from the person who I was speaking to before? I've already mentioned the name, so I'm not going to do it again. If it wasn't for abortion, it would be infanticide. And yes, I'm an arse. I'm not bothered if you're an arse. I'm quite happy talking to you about it. That's just the way it is. Everybody has a different point of view. After all, it's only a morality question. It's not necessarily a point of actual, intellectual point. It's just a morality. I'd say that it's definitely a hell of a lot harder to kill a baby in your own arms that you've given birth to than going to the clinic to get an abortion from a doctor.
Well
I'd say
said.
it's a hell of a lot harder to do.
Well said. And some people do that. Some people shaken baby syndrome. And I'm not saying that they set out to kill the child, but some do. And so no, it's a lot harder to kill a child you've held here. And I tell you what, I'll give you please, common sense, because it's abortion and this is crazy and I don't know how it came up, but it did, and that's what we're all about here. Would you do me a favor and give us the final thing on this? And for everybody that's made comments, we really appreciate it. We don't have it all. I can tell you right now, Common Sense Guy is not going to claim he has all the answers or that all of his answers are correct. But I would like to give him the last word on this because he seems to know a little bit about
it. There's some people who I'm actually going to say, because I absolutely love Susie Monkey. I absolutely love her. Yeah, I know that people have always been using it, but it's to the point that if you have to do it yourself or you have to kill the child afterwards or things like that, it does deter you. And yes, you are correct. That it is due to stupidity when it comes to teens and things like that. And I assure you that the cost can deter people from having it done. You may argue that some people might use the old coat hangers back in the 1860s, 1870s, before condoms were invented in the 1920s, 1928-ish. So yeah, I do understand, and I have looked at this in quite an extensive form. The thing is, as you quite rightly just said, literally at the bottom, women that wouldn't be able to afford to get their baby terminated or couldn't do infanticide, they would give their children up for adoption. And yeah, you may say that, oh, it's haunted their lives, but the thing is, it will come back. And if the child wants to get back in touch with their mum, they can still have a relationship afterwards.
And that's happened for centuries, common sense. That what you're talking about, it's happened for centuries.
Yeah, just this last little point. Where you say that it's haunted their lives, the thing is, both of them have had the chance to actually have a life. Not one of them has snuffed their life out, and if one of them wants to get in contact with the other, then they can do it, and then they can have a relationship afterwards. The options are there. Maybe it might not happen, maybe it does, but the option's there. If you snuff out the option, then you have no argument to begin with anyway.
Yeah, well,
sorry, I just
look, I see Me Too, and these don't count, but I see Me Too, Susie Monkey. There's a lot of people commenting on this, common sense, and I'm going to leave this up to you. We could go into a little more depth about it. I'm not even. You already know how I think. What I think. Or we could just say that we appreciate all the comments and we know that this is a hot button topic, but we're prepared now to just move on to something else. Well, so I will leave that up to you, comments. If there's anything else that you want to address out in the chat, because I see this is something that is obviously touching people, but you already know how I feel, so I'm just going to leave it up to you.
I just answered two more questions, or I just wanted to point out one more, and then we can move on perfectly. Genesis, or APR rather, puts a very good point out there. How do any other animals actually deal with the form of terminations or abortions? They don't have abortions. It's only us that has abortions.
Yes.
You can argue the fact that, oh yeah, but we're sensible enough to be able to work out how to do them. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. We may be, but is it really sensible if no other animal does it? Just a different perspective.
No, and that's a great segue, because my chickens, they never abort. I take that back. They love eggs, and it's weird because sometimes they will eat the eggs, but then you get a broody mom and she protects them, and then there's like in the dead of winter when you'd think they'd really want to eat the eggs, they don't. They won't touch them. If a mom wants to sit on a batch of eggs in the middle of winter when they're not laying many, because chickens are like plants. The light affects them. So if you want your chicken to lay eggs constantly, like one egg a day, which is remarkable, but one egg every, I should say, how about 6 eggs a week? That would be normal. 5 eggs a week would be okay. So if you want your chickens to do that, you need to have light on 12 hours a day. And I don't do that to mine. My chickens are, they're free range completely. What I'm trying to say is, yes, there's examples of abortion. Look at alligators. Lived in Florida for a long time. I was so crazy, common sense, when I was young. And my brother may be watching this. He watches often. And my niece may be watching this. She watches often. They just won't dox me, and they are who they are. So they know this is true. When I was young, I used to go throw chicken out into the Wekiva River in Central Florida. And then when the alligators would come around, it didn't take much where we were at, man. It was like right to Rock Springs. And when they would come in, I would snorkel. I would go out there with my fins. I'm a big guy, man. I'm not quite as big as you, but I'm a big guy. And back then, I mean, alligators never messed with me. I have swam I've canoed right next to them, within 3 inches, the canoe touching 10-foot alligator. But I've snorkeled up to them, I mean, within closer than a foot, common sense. Yeah. Like it or not. Closer than a foot. Videotaped him. I used to go with a guy named Charlie Knutson. I'm saying his full name because if you can find him, there's probably 15 of those or 1,000 of those in the United States. And if you can find him, good luck with that, Florida wild man. He will tenderize the toughest steak, common sense. Let me put it that way. He's one of the toughest guys I ever knew. He was a treasure hunter, but he would go right down, man. If the alligator's underwater, they're kind of tame. Look, I feel like I'm rambling. So yes, we're off that topic. Thank you so much for everybody's input. I wouldn't say that I disagree with anything Common Sense said. Very intelligent, very well thought out. We need to remember the sanctity of human life, but in all things, there's factors. We need to find some kind of in between, you know, a Spartan taking and exposing a baby on a cliff, you know, and just leaving the baby there to die, or, you know, saying, hey, some people have Down syndrome, you know, because we can right now, Common Sense, check. And this is not leading into another discussion. We're going to end this unless you want to pick it up or whatever, which I hope to God not. I'm just saying that we do have the technology now to know if your child's going to have a hair lip, let alone Down syndrome or something. We know if there's going to be any defects. You know, they just got to take a little sample, test it, and they'll know. Man, I hate that. It was a slippery slope, and the slippery slope started when
we're still going down it.
Yeah, when we figured out we could tell boy or girl. Look, if you're getting pregnant and you're going to have a child, don't even find that out. So I don't know, Common Sense. Let's stick off because I think Trump is now speaking. So our first topic is we're not even going to do it today. We're not, you know, it's not even going to happen. I actually had a couple other stories. One was really funny. Did you see the one I sent you about the guy that went to pay his parking ticket in Detroit, Michigan with pennies? And the
you say that's funny. I don't particularly think it's funny. I mean, it's
I'm
funny
sorry.
how he's paying with pennies, but not what happened to the poor bugger.
Thank you. I mean, I will. So I mean, if you even care to go into that, I will try not to laugh, but because it's not. You're right. It's not funny. It's Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
When I want to laugh at it, it's just Schadenfreude, because this guy has not done anything that he just went, you know, and he did. I'm sure that in his mind he was like, yeah, I got all these pennies rolled up. They want to give me a parking ticket. I'm going to go and give him 1,000 pennies. Is $10 because it was a $10 parking ticket. And this guy there was somebody at the wherever it is, I'm assuming some kind of police station or substation, and
I don't know how it works in your state.
He chokes this poor bugger, chokes him until he defecates.
Yeah.
It made me think. The reason I brought this up was because of Catalonia, because I was so anti what you were sticking up for. And now I realize, no, if I don't want every little state or whoever to rise up and to you know, segregate from their original country. But I gotta say this makes me think of that, Common Sense. That's why I put it in there. It's good Lord. Didn't he have the right?
I've always found that argument completely, not to go on to the Catalonia incidents anyway, because we all know what I'm like on that. But I've always found that argument from you really funny, because you have your federal laws and then you have your state laws, which are different from state to state. What's more different than having your own country, except by name, than having your own laws? Sorry, I just had to put that in there.
No, and I'm just, secession should be something that's difficult, because, and the reason why I'll always say, dance with the one that brought you to the show. You know, you leave with the one that brought you. You don't go and, you know, if someone brings you in there and gets you to the pass, you shouldn't go and start dancing with somebody else in front of them. And that's how I see this.
Well, I see this story as somebody that's completely and utterly abusing their power to the point of, yeah, so what? He was being a dick by bringing pennies in. That doesn't give you the right to do anything to touch that person at that point in time. If that person was threatening you, or threatening the shop that you're in, or the place that you're in, fair enough. You have a legal responsibility. Yeah, you have a legal responsibility to be able to protect yourself and protect the people that are in that place. Fair enough. You have that.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's just throwing pennies down into the tray to go, I want to pay a bloody fine. You don't have any right to be able to pick that bloke up, choke slam him to the floor, choke him so hard that he shits himself.
Damn.
And
yeah, I mean, when you think about that, because obviously you put yourself in that position. And it looks, like people were teasing before I said, Common Sense guy's getting the news together, blah, blah, blah. And of course it came up. And of course I know who you are. and I know I don't want to put quotes on it. I know you're disabled, common sense, but you still look like the kind of bloke that if he's even got about 45 seconds in him to hurt you, that you're ruined anyway. So it doesn't matter that you're disabled. You could still crush me, and I would.
Without tooting my own horn, I am more dangerous now than what I ever was before because I used to play around in that sort of a situation.
Well, you strike me as that kind of guy.
I would be normally on my toes, but now it's a case of I can't do that, so I have to hurt you before you hurt me.
And as I've said, if you had 45 seconds to hurt someone, they would be well hurt. I mean, it would be pretty much too late. It'd be you look like the kind of guy that could break something if you want to. Like,
well, I used to dislocate people's shoulders when I was working security, so that gives you an idea.
Well, and we'll move on because it's not a tooting horn kind of deal. It's just saying that we need that. I mean, I'm giving myself. I'm trying to get ammunition for myself. We need to have something that says, okay, not necessarily Catalonia, because the more I look into it, man, I don't know, dang on it. And for me, that you screwed me, common sense, because the only leg I've really got to stand on is 1780 something. I can't get it off the top of my head. It was a long time ago.
1772 was the War of Succession, and then they also become their own independent country again in 1827 to 29, and then there was the War of Union, which then had Spain reunite as a whole again.
Well, there's still a huge amount of them that don't see themselves as well, and it looks like it's a third. It looks like 1/3 of Catalans say, I don't care. 1/3 of Catalans say, we're Spanish. And 1/3 of Catalans say, we're Catalan.
Yep.
My response to that, and yes, I want you to talk about this because I'm coming to some kind of, you should be proud, because I didn't think I'd ever even consider. And this has nothing to do with respect I've gained for you over working with, nothing to do with any of this. It just has to do with looking at your arguments. I rewatched a couple videos you put out just yesterday, and I had some downtime, and I actually watched them. Sometimes you need that common sense guy. That you're the guy at the pub. I'll say, and look, I'm not tooting your horn. You don't have to explain. You already did. You're a big, tough guy. I know it. You're the guy at the pub that's like, hey, look, man, you're going to beat me up because you just don't like the way I look. Hey, that's my mate that I came with. And if you want to beat me up because, you don't like the way I look, he's going to smash your face.
Yeah, my mates have never done that to me before. Pointing people towards me. My mates have never done that.
Well, and I'm doing that to make a point because no, I wouldn't do it either, common sense. But if I strolled into the pub with you, there you are. And to me, you do represent Spain. You do represent this thing that says, no. As much as, oh, good Lord. If you don't want to talk about Catalonia right now, we don't have to.
I'm happy.
Okay. So explain to me tell us all, now that we've got a little time away from it, now that we have is this any different than, am I wrong in my view? Because now we have President Trump. I'm looking for his thing. We won't be able to cover it today with North Korea, but he wants to get involved in North Korea. They shot a missile up in the air. It came back down. It didn't hit anything. It didn't hurt anything. It is, and listen, I'm playing devil's advocate. Anybody thinks that I'm shilling or carrying water for North Korea, they can kiss common. In fact, I already said he'll beat you up, so just leave me alone. What I'm trying to say is that it's their business. They're conducting experiments. They are an autonomous country. They do their own thing. It's not our business to get involved in this. Should I look at Catalonia wanting to be their own thing the same way as I just described it? Hey, no matter how much I dislike, and I used the worst example I think I could think of, no matter how much I dislike North Korea, they are their own country, and we don't really have a right to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from that point of view, you could quite easily say that The only thing that's different about Catalonia is obviously, as you all have pointed out before, it's already in an actual country as itself. It would be like trying to say to the United Kingdom, you're going to have Scotland break up or whatever, or Portugal reunite with Spain, for instance. A lot of people wouldn't want that. But obviously Portugal was part of Spain many years ago before they had the succession between two different rulers, and then one picked one and one picked the other. But when it comes to Spain and Catalonia, I'm not going to give any sort of independence to Catalonia. Why did they give them the options to have 4 referendums before they decided to have this last one? To the point where it was getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the point where Catalonia was actually going to decide to be independent. Now, at that point in time, it would have been very, very slim if it happened at all for this last referendum where everybody was getting beaten and everything else like that. Where to the point, if Spain didn't even interfere, I'm pretty sure of this, I don't think they would have been anywhere near to being to have left. I don't think it would have been close. I think it still would have been around about, I would have said about 54% of not leaving. I'm pretty sure of that, just because of the common consensus was what's going on. But because they told everybody not to go out and vote, and then they were beating people up that were already voting, people that wanted to stay in Spain were just like, well, it's not worth going out. So then they forced what was happening. The fact that people were then going out to vote to spite what Spain were doing.
Man,
So
I can't even lie. When I think back on that time, Common Sense, I feel a little guilty. I was a truck driver. I was very young when Shock and Awe, and I think I'm a little older than you. You were very young, if I remember right. You're in your 30s.
Yep, I'm just 30.
When that happened, man, when Shock and Awe came out and they were bombing Baghdad, I was there. I had chicken fried steak. I had a 12-pack of Heineken delivered to my room in Green River, Wyoming, because we were snowed in. If Mrs. Ogre was here, she'd tell you. As far as I know, I pulled into the last place you could fit an 18-wheeler with a 50-foot lorry, a lorry with a 53-foot trailer. The last place in Green River. I woke up the next day and looked around, couldn't find it. But that night, just so happened when the blizzard hit in Green River and they shut the highway down, and I was stuck there in this nice motel, I gotta say. We started bombing them with the Shock and Awe that Donnie Rummy Rumsfeld thought up, man. I don't want to get too far off. Might doesn't make right. And when I think of the way I felt when I watched the Catalonian, when I watched the Spanish police beating up Catalonians trying to vote, man, you know it, Common Sense. You were there, you were on there, you remember. I was like, what was my opinion then?
The Spanish people had, the Spanish police had every right in doing it.
And I was kind of giddy about it. I was like, yeah, look at him kicking these dummies' asses. I was.
Yep.
Just like I felt about Shock and Awe. But no, gotta admit, looking back, man, good Lord. Just because you are that big guy, you also strike me as this way, Common Sense, that if we were at that same pub and I was like, nah, you piece of shit, fuck you, man. Look at my bro over there. You would probably watch me get beat down if I was trying to start something.
I'd wait for you to look at me. I'd wait for you to look at me and go, no, yeah, come over here. My mate's going to beat you. I was like, no, you're on your own, mate. You started this. You're going to finish it.
And so I do feel guilty for that, because no, there's a time. I mean, why didn't they just let them do it and then at the end say, well, it's illegal? I mean, they could have done that, right? They didn't have to beat anybody.
You know why they can't say that it's illegal? And I pointed this out at the time, and it's
it's not in some world court, I believe. But why?
Because it's not against their constitution. They were trying to say it's against their constitution. It is not against their constitution to be able to vote for independence. It has never been written in their constitution that can happen. That's the reason why they. That's the reason why they said, "Oh, we need to have a relook at it, so we're going to postpone it." They didn't cancel it; they were postponing it postponing the result of the referendum.
So on the same vein, does am I saying that? You know what I'm talking about. Does Kim Jong-un, does he have the right to shoot the missiles? Like I just said, man, does he have the right to do that? Or
No,
not?
of course he doesn't. No, of course he doesn't.
He
Because
doesn't.
then he's interfering with other countries.
No. Let's be clear, because I believe you were clear. I just want to make sure. My question is not just does he have the right to shoot a missile up in the air that comes back down, lands in the sea, and doesn't even detonate a nuclear warhead? It just lands in the sea. Does he have the right to do that?
It goes over other countries, so no, he does not have the right to do that.
From North Korea, it doesn't. It was just in the China Sea. It did not go over any other countries.
Then he would have to let other countries know what was going on before he did it. Otherwise, it would be seen as a sign of aggression.
I'm being disingenuous also because I'm leaving out that some of those waters are controlled by other countries. So to be perfectly honest, and I just realized I did it. To be perfectly honest, when it was up, Common, it was over other countries, and that it did fly over, naval space, water, ocean that was controlled by other countries. So that's true. And maybe what you just said was another point that you could have told, but how many times did the United States tell people, look, I'm not trying to go to slavery. I'm just being realistic. We're talking about a little country that's autonomous, that has their right to be their own country. And, and just like we are. How many times did the United States tell people when they were going to do ballistics missiles tests, or when they were going to detonate, not just test, but detonate a nuclear warhead in the deserts of this country, up in outer space, over the ocean? We've done all those things. Were those things wrong?
Not with the countries that are actually done, because they did it over most of their own airspace and most of their own countries.
So then look, man, I'm not trying to beat you up, but look, so then it's not wrong for North Korea to do this as long as they don't violate other people's airspace and whatnot. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it's up to them. It's their country. They can do what they want. If they want to blow themselves up by putting another missile in their country, then yeah, that's up to them.
All right, I fully agree with that. And I have no love for North Korea, but I fully agree with that. Because it could be argued very, very well that when they shot it over the Sea of Japan, that they were in other people's airspace. So, okay, the thing that they just didn't look good. But where I will stop, where I'm trying to say that, and I believe you'll agree with me if you think about it, where I'm trying to say I'm pulling back is they shouldn't tell anybody about it. Common sense. I mean, we wouldn't, you don't want the Royal Navy or the Royal Marines to tell people what their maneuvers are. Not even you. You don't even want to know. You want them to do their thing because they protect the country.
No, but when they're going to maneuvers up in top of Scotland, some of them, especially with the Marines, as you said, when they're first doing that, they have permission from Scotland to do that, obviously. And then if they're going across to Norway to do their Norway battles, they have permission from that country as well to be able to do that. Also, as well, they're always in contact with international waters. In ours, it's the UN, obviously. If they're going up to the North Pole to do their expeditions in the North Pole, they also have permission from international groups from up there as well to do that.
And if it's up to you, too, I set this up here. What I'll do is, if you read the post that I put in the side chat, and you think, because this will be the second one, seemed pretty in depth to me, and yeah, we'll always break that rule. I'm sure we'll go to some other chats, especially with your common sense. You're like myself; you're pretty conscientious about the side chat, and it's hard to multitask that way, but it's also very fulfilling if you do, because we get so much more input. And like I said, I thought about it. I was gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna, because people think right now. I mean, we got one person in our crew taking a vacation, and I'm already getting a few little things. Look, we're not asking for anybody to. There's no. What am I trying to say? Common sense. There's no. What do you call it when you're audition? There's no audition. We're not Britain's Got Talent or anything like that. We have hosts. We have enough hosts right now. We really do. We got two really good hosts. I would say we have one really good host. His name is Common Sense Guy, and maybe he would think that he has we appreciate, we do appreciate. I would also like to, one more time, Common Sense, I hate this for you, but I'd like to say in zero I doubt he's watching right now, but no, I'm sorry, mate. It's just, it comes down to this. We don't want puppies to be aborted, as we said, and we're very vehement that life, apparently both of us, that life begins at conception. But to get on this show, you have to go through the common sense guy. I don't care what method he uses. I don't question him. I just say that, oh, this guy contacted me. Would you look into this? In the end, if he looks into it, and I'm sure if the Britisher was here, he would totally agree with us, then, well, if you don't get past the common sense guy, with all due respect, we love everybody that listens. We want you to come and listen to us again, even if you hate us. But if you don't get past that hurdle, then you're not in the race. So I'm very sorry. And also, I just very clearly want to say, no, we are not. There's no auditions for hosts. The Quiet Hour with Jeremy Maddox the other day, he was just doing a thing, and I offered him my platform because I appreciate him, and he wanted to have the common sense guy, myself, and a couple of the people on. And where he was talking about, because common sense, if you remember, he was saying, oh, I'm looking for a host or something. That's not us. I mean, we're not
us. Yeah.
So that's it. That's the end of that. Little housekeeping, and to say that Catalonia, abortion. We're going to segue off of that.
I just got one little quick point, if I can. I go from Mr. Crumple Point. It's a question from Mr. Crumple Point, which is at Ogre at Common Sense. By what standard do they have the right to be considered a country? Bearing in mind it's a military dictatorship run by a tiny number of people. I'm guessing he means North Korea. If you just wanted to elaborate on that, please, Crumple Point. What are you talking about? As in, obviously, we've talked about Catalonia, or are you talking about North Korea? If you can just quickly clarify that for us.
I'm looking at this too. Crumple Point, I can see you on Twitter. If you're willing to come on, Common Sense Guy and myself will give you 120 seconds. So in other words, if I send you a link, we're going to let you come on and state your case verbally. But at that point, we will ask you to leave. We're not, again, I mean, I don't want to go to belabor at Common Sense, but if this happens, I like the idea of call-in shows. I like the idea of people being able to verbalize what they say, but it's hard for us, right? Because at that point, they think that you've given them a link, and I'm not saying you, Crumple Point. I'm just saying some folks might say that you've given them a link now, and that means that you want to hang around all day, right? But maybe that we would just want them to come in and make a point and then go. So Crumple Point, I see your thing here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to trust you to be able to do this, and see if you even swing by. Or did he already answer me and say he's not going to come on air? One way or the other, it's out there, Crumple Point. I'm just sending this out. I know he can get on air. He was on here with us on the 24-hour stream. So I just didn't want to put him on the spot. So Crumple Point, if you would like to come by and make your case, as I said, though, just please remember, because again, remember that even though he can't get his hands on you, I will put him in side chat or something. He will, Common Sense will throw you out if you try to be a dick or anyone else. He will just kick you out. So there you go. It's there, Crumple Point. And did he send you some more clarification in the side chat already?
No, but I'm going to assume that he means North Korea. If he does mean somewhere else, talk to me afterwards or talk to me anything, but I'm going to assume you mean North Korea, as that was the segue that we were on. North Korea was an established country way before the fact that it was a military concept. Obviously, it's had 3 generations. This is the 3rd generation of the supreme leaders. And even before that, it was still a country. So, yeah, it definitely has a sovereignty to be a country. There's no two ways about that, whether you want to believe that or not, whether it's ruled by a military or not. The USSR was ruled by a military most of the time. Does that not mean that that was not a legitimate country? Of course it does. Just because we don't like the way it's ruled doesn't mean it's not a country. That's what I'll say on that one.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Oh, so look, Crumple Point, Common Sense. No, Crumple Point, I see you can hear us. So look in your Twitter and follow this link, and that way they don't have to be this way.
He's just put something in the side chat. He did mean North Korea. It wasn't a challenge, and I was wondering what metric we are using. Well, the metric that decides that it's a country is one by the country declaring that it's a country, having a form of currency, having its own form of government, having its own people, and by the definition of a wiki link I believe I've used before, having its own national anthem. So we've got people, government, currency, national anthem.
Culture, national anthem, culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. So anyway, I did what I got to do, and yeah, that's fine. So it's all cleared up. So do what you got to do. Again, I got to say, I guess that link is dead now, then Crumble Point. So you could follow it, but he'll probably just kick you right out because I think it's all been answered. What else, brother, on this? Because I was going to segue, but you know me, man. I'll let people beat up one topic until it's absolutely not even breathing. Because that's what we have to do.
Yeah, no, that's fine. With the North Korea thing, it's a case of if they want to test their missiles, fine. But they're going to have to do what America did and buy a small island in the middle of the Pacific and do something like that to be able to test their missiles and go out there and do that and throw it into their waters around there. Because if they're going over other international waters and they're throwing missiles near another international country, like Japan, that's only going to be seen as a provocation. Whether that's what they mean to do or whether it's accidental, it's going to be seen as a provocation. So on that note, they're either doing something that they really want to do or they have no idea what they're doing. And either way, that's a scary thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's a scary thing. Even to big tough guys like us. There's lots of scary shit going on in the world right now. I mean, if we look at the I'll probably go on to this now, common sense. If we look at the show map, and we'll skip the first thing, of course, because I didn't see anything going on with the. We got to get into this a little bit, just a little bit, if you don't mind. I mean, yeah, Matt Lauer now, where it's coming down where I know you probably don't know this name, but Garrison Keillor has been a Prairie Home Companion, is a staple of public radio, national NPR, National Public Radio here in the United States. And it's government funded and listener supported and all this crazy stuff. It's kind of like the BBC, only not even nearly. I don't know how else to say it. And this guy's been on forever, a Prairie Home Companion, man. I mean, he's got this, anybody that knows who he is would understand this. They broadcast from Lake Wobegon. Lake Wobegon. And Lake Wobegon is Algonquin for place where we waited for you all day in the rain and you never showed up. And so they're showing that, yes, it's not only Germans with their Schadenfreude and their Weltschmerz, which respectively means laughing at your pain and the world that I think it should be in the world that is. And so they're not the first ones. I mean, we have our Native Americans here that with Lake Wobegon, place where we raided in the day, didn't show up, where it's the same thing. Man, he's been accused now. Listen, common sense. I'm just going to say it, and I need your input on this. I don't think you'll agree with me, and maybe you will. Okay, but
let's get on with it.
Yes, let's do it. When you reach a certain level, be you a gay man and teasing and joking and flirting with men that work under you, a powerful woman that is either gay or straight and does the same with females or males, or a powerful male that is straight, that is an accepted norm of society. And what's happening right now, whether we like it or not, the very particular destruction of the hierarchy is not a good thing. And we're not talking about, in most of these cases, Matt Lauer, I don't like Matt Lauer. We're not talking about rape. We're not even talking about sexual assault. We're talking about people. I don't like this. Oh, good. He's from Michigan. I can't even think of his name. I don't like this congressman from Michigan. I don't care that he was a civil rights advocate. I don't like him. But so some lady happened to come into his office one day and he was still in his underwear. These people pretty much live in their offices for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time. You know, they change in there, they eat in there, they sleep in there. You know, Jason Chavis did that also. I guarantee you there were some staffers. Jason Chavis lived in his office while he was in Washington, D.C. for something like 12 years. He was doing it so he could put his children through school and stuff and not buy a place to live while he was in Washington, D.C. That's why he ultimately quit. And so if I'm not going too long on this, common sense, this is a destruction of social norms. Men and women, especially powerful, especially, I'm not trying to give them a pass. I'm just saying, especially these type A alpha females that are so driven, man, once in a while, they got to squeeze the ass of the male boy, grab his package, you know? And once in a while, common sense, oh, I'm going to get the mail. I can feel it right now. I'm just going to say it. Once in a while, the male boy's got to take one for the team. You know, you didn't get raped, male boy. The powerful lady that owns the newspaper where you work at, or the broadcasting facility that you work at, she just noticed that you were young and handsome and just wanted to show you that she was up on the ladder, and she just grabbed your cock and balls. She's the meat and veg. It's not a big deal. You want other women to do it. Just deal with it. And I will leave it at that. Isn't this a breakdown of our norms, comments? I hate to come at this, common sense, but this is coming at us every day. And you know, I've wanted to leave this alone weeks ago, but it won't go away.
Well, I'd like to just read a little section of what the link that you actually provided for our show map at the beginning. It says, Matt Laura, or Lorna, or whatever, has been terminated from NBC News. Matt Lorna has been dismissed from NBC News. NBC News chairman Andy Lack released a statement saying a colleague had come forward reporting behavior in violation standards. Doesn't say that he had anything, or he's done anything, or he's been inappropriate, or anything else like that. Doesn't say anything like that. It just says company standards, violation of. Surely with this day and age, if you're going to put something like that down, we're going to naturally assume anyway. Now, I'm only going off the link that Ogre says, because obviously this is not something that I would actually be too interested in, to the point where I'm not really interested in all of this scandals that are supposed to be going on anyway. There's no way of there's no way of actually being able to prove any of these, to the point even in our country with most of the people going, oh yes, 10 years ago he brushed against my leg and he leant over and touched my shoulder. Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay, so where's the sexual harassment then? Sorry.
Common sense guy, how many times in your life have you been, and I know you're married, but just be honest, how many times in your life have you been touched, be it a hand on your shoulder, a hand on your chest, and you can feel the hand on your bicep that's from a female or a male, where you knew in that moment, and I'm trying to stay away from the other bits that we don't want to talk about, but where you knew in that moment.
When I was at work, almost every day I was at work, someone somewhere would touch me on the shoulder or touch me on the arm or touch me somewhere.
And you knew that this was not necessarily that they were going to use this for masturbatory material or something like this, but you did understand that this was coming from someone that knew they could get away with it and was kind of for lack of a better word, feeling you and looking at you and seeing that you were a nice looking big man.
Yeah, some of it was done to make me comment and lose my job over it, because some of it was done by men in general, just to make me react, so I lose my job over it. Some were done by women that just knew that if I reacted, that they'll just say, well, no, I didn't do anything, and it wouldn't go any further.
Let's stick with the first one, though, common sense.
Yeah.
So unpack that a little bit for me. So you believe there were people, and not to get you in trouble, you don't have to talk about this at all if you don't want to. We can just end it right here. But if you care to, you think that people actually were physically laying, not assaulting, but touching you to get a response that would lead to your termination?
Yeah, the reason why is because I used to work security for the courthouses, as you would call them. I used to work for courts. So I would always be, if somebody was kicking off, I'd be one of the first people up the stairs to kick them out. So generally, when they used to come through, when we used to search them when they come in and everything, to make sure that they didn't have anything on them. Afterwards, after I've searched them, they normally put the hand on their shoulders, or they would put their hand on my shoulder and run down the bicep and say something like, "Oh, you're a big boy." And I know that they're not that way inclined. They're doing it for a reaction, so I react to them. And if I was to walk around, they'd always do the kissing noise, so I would react to it. Now, most of these people are obviously just freaking idiots, and to be honest, it didn't really get to me, because I knew what position I was working at, because I wasn't dealing with the best people in society to begin with. But yeah, no, it definitely happened to the point where I knew that people were trying to do that to get me to react. Sometimes they would call me love and things like that, which is funny because when I get pissed off, I then call people love.
You had people that would like call you love? Like a girl, that's like saying a girl.
I actually do that when I'm pissed off. If I'm pissed off with somebody, so if I ever say that in the stream to somebody, and I go,
"All right, they just didn't like you because you're a big guy"? Do you think they were intimidated by you?
No, just because of my position. Just because I was there to make sure they didn't kick off. That's literally all it was. Probably because I was the biggest out of the people that were there. Yeah, probably. I was probably the one that, if I was looking at it from their point of view and I was looking for a fight, I'd probably be the first person that I would look at as well. I was youngish. I was quite big. I used to be quite active. So, yeah, I would be the first person that if I wanted to quarrel with, I would knock me out first.
And we ain't gonna keep bringing it back to that. It's just funny. I ain't gonna say who, because I think we're down to one or so persons that we're gonna name and pick out something. And I'll say this: we've got one more topic, two more topics for our final words. I did a bunch of stuff earlier. Sorry about the lateness on the show map, Common Sense. I will work very diligently to get that out to you. So 10, 2, 3. By 3:00 p.m. your time, usually. That gives you 5 hours to peruse it, make changes.
Homework.
Whatever we got to do. And you know as well as I do. I mean, the funny thing is, and that's why I mentioned it in the beginning, and I'm not panhandling. People take care of us, Common Sense. I mean, I'm waiting for a PIN number. I think this, in the last, it would be the 15th would have been a month, or the 17th. And so if you get the 17th and add it on to now, people have given us like 90 quid. I'm not even kidding you. You know, I mean, to some people it's like, oh, 90 quid. No, I mean, it's like people have just given us that money.
Yeah, 90 quid's a hell of a lot of money. Well, happy with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's not like, you know, it's not like a dime or something. It's something. Good Lord. In fact, it's so amazing to me that I lost my train of thought. I can't believe that folks do that. Oh, the point is we're not, no, this is not a marathon. It was great for the 24-hour stream. I mean, I noticed that it seems like there's a little bit of buzz, especially in the beginning of our show, which is when we usually get the most people watching Common Sense. But also Common Sense guy, Captain Colepile and Willem, what the heck is his name? Oh man, I should have wrote these down. Common Sense. We had about 6 people that in that 24 hours give us, you know, that's what pumped it up to that number, because we were riding at about, I don't know, 60, something like that, 60 quid.
I think it was
something like that. And then boom, on that time, and you know, people just come in and was like, wow, you know, you came in the beginning, the whole deal. And we want to thank everybody. I've really thought about it hard, and I think I'm going to plan harder. And what I'm going to do is I got to think about it. It's probably going to be every 3 months. It may be every 4 months, but it'll probably every 3 months. I'm going to do at least an 8-hour stream, and it may be a 12-hour, maybe like half a day. And I'll plan it. You know what I'll do? I'll plan it for the, you know, for my English folks like yourself. All kinds of stuff's going down. I can't ignore it forever. We're not going to talk about it. I mean, it's just the way it is, because it's our stuff is our stuff. But no, Brits on vacation. People are like, you're taking Brits' place. Shit, Common Sense guy, to say that is actually discounting you. This is why I'm addressing it too, Common Sense. You're not taking Brits' place. You've been here.
Yeah, I've been here for a while now.
All right. So I'm not even going to dignify that with any more talk. I just saw that. Now, no disrespect to you. I don't mean I'm not going to dignify the person that said it. But once again, I'm not going to use up our last name. So look, as we go through this, what do you got, Common Sense? Are you in a hurry tonight? How much time you got? I got nothing to do.
I'm not in a hurry, no. But I've probably only got about another half hour at most.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's simply because the missus will start kicking me because she's up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no worries. That's why I ask. So what we'll do is give us something good in the side, and if we see it, we'll mention it. If not, I don't know, Common Sense. Pick something out from the show.
Oh, I can go on my latest video, the video that I'm going to be producing for tomorrow. I can go on that. The fact that the BBC TV license is now not an actual service charge anymore. It's a fucking tax. And is still collected by the BBC and not by the government. It was changed in January 2016 and is collected by the BBC still individually, and they still enforce it as well. And that tax has now actually been changed now to include not just the BBC and its sources, but ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, Sky, cable, internet, as well as radio. But yet the money only goes to the BBC and doesn't go anywhere else.
That's
so I can.
Yeah, I don't like the BBC.
Taxation without representation, possibly, maybe.
Of course. And then I'm watching somebody. I'm not going to name. I'll let you name if you want. But I was watching something that just was produced today, and I looked and
on the offensive.
Okay, yeah. So I was watching that because I expected what I expected. I'm going to say this as delicately as I can, but I'm going to say it. So we had him on the show as a host and as a guest, and so anyway. I mean, I did expect a collaboration, but it seems like it's going to come out as a two-part, and that's fine. It's fine, and Danny, we appreciate everything. But I did watch that today, and I'll watch yours tomorrow when it comes out. And he was showing this thing with John Cleese.
Yep.
It's like, well, what to give to us? And man. And I'll leave this off. So give us a lowdown on this. I'm just going to say that I really did look forward to a collab, and it just, sometimes what we look forward to just doesn't happen, doesn't come. So tell us all about this mess.
Well, to be fair, the situation with me and the on the offensive is just a creative difference.
Not that mess. No. I mean the BBC, yeah. And you can tell us about that if you want. No, I wasn't.
Not particularly. It's just. We both had our own videos. Mine was over 20-something minutes long because I was, obviously, as everybody knows, I'm long-winded. And his was already 14 minutes, and he just didn't want to do a collab video that was over 30 minutes at that point. So I can kind of understand that. He's got his channel. He does what he wants to do. So I'm quite happy the fact that he's still promoting everything that I'm doing anyway. He's already linked everything for us as well. So he's done well on that point. I'm the pinned comment at the top of his video if you watch it. So he's helped us out quite well on that one. To be fair, going back to this BBC tax thing, but before I did all of this, I just wanted to stop the TV license or to put the TV license so it fit everybody. And then I found out that it was turned into a tax in January in 2016. Because before that, in May, everybody was trying to get rid of the TV license. And before they could get rid of the TV license, they said, well, no, it's not a TV license. It's not a service charge anymore. It's actually turned into a tax. And you can't abolish a tax without it going through Lords. And it's just amazing how the timing of that come out. But the thing with taxes, that it means that now it's a legislation that the public can actually choose where it goes and where it's funded, or at least the conversation can be had. So if everybody actually signs it and does the petition, so it gets up to, I think for it to be read out in Chamber of Commerce, it needs to be at 50,000, and for them to debate it, it needs to be at 100,000. So to be fair, for the amount of people that can be used on the internet and just knowing people as well, that's not that many. It's not that many to fill. The power of the internet's not that hard to fill that. I've also put it out onto my Facebook and everything else like that. Obviously put on Twitter as well. It's just the point that the tax is for everything that you see on the telly and everything on the telly, everything on the radio, everything that's to do with that. And it's just Yeah, well, I'm not trying to. Sorry. The Order 1814 just put up a common sense guy. A petition to get rid of TV license has been heard in the Commons and debated, but after speeches been adjourned. Yeah, I know. The reason for that was because it was changed from a service charge into a tax. I don't know if you were hearing that beforehand, but that's why I've explained it. It's now been turned into a tax since January 2016. That's the reason why I'm confused by it, because it's a tax for the whole of the telly. It's the tax for everything that's on the telly. That's including satellite and cable and everything. Thank you very much.
Commercials? Is there any commercials on the TV that you pay for with your tax? Do they have any commercials on it for like toothpaste, anything?
For the BBC, no. For the BBC, there's no commercials on them, apart from certain radio stations. But apart from that,
Right.
no, there's no TV commercials. But that's where it gets interesting. Because if the tax is there for the TV license, why is it not being distributed to ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, and all the rest of them if it's a TV tax and not a service charge for the BBC anymore? Because you can't tax something that is a public commodity. The reason why I say that is because it's not the NHS and it is run by the government. It's not run by the government. It's a public building that's run by individuals. It's not run by the government. It's supposed to be independent. It's got its own corporations and everything else like that. It's not run by the government. So how can the BBC actually collect tax from people, hold on to the tax, then give it to the cultural secretary? The culture secretary will then decide what it's going to do to it, then give roughly 70% of that money back just because they are taxing for the BBC, just because the BBC is the BBC. No other reason. Where the BBC, if they were just to do what every other channel does, which is provide advertisement, would be able to pay for itself. And then would actually have to become more of a free market enterprise rather than it being controlled by the government. Which is funny, because it's never controlled by the government. It's always completely controlled by left-leaning biases. Go to On the Offence's video to be able to watch that. He explains that excellently, which is the main reason why I wanted to do a collab with him. But things happen.
RPR put out a great, yeah, and we covered that. You know, shit happens. But RPR put out a great link here. I mean, I just looked, I skimmed it. I put it in the side chat for you there, Common Sense Guy. And he don't count. He's like a quasi producer. When I mention his name, he don't count. I mean, honestly, he's the one that got Undoomed on for us, and that was a good show.
Yeah, this is what RPR's just put up is the actual petition that I set up.
Yeah,
all of that's my work. I did the video for that.
You did all of the. So this is okay. I mean,
this is all me. I did a video explaining how I did all of it.
I personally can't sign it unless I was.
Of course you can't. Of course you can't. You can't sign it because you're not in the UK. Everybody in the UK has to sign it, otherwise it won't be heard.
Yeah, but that's Susie Monkey. I mean, that's a lot of people out there right now. I'm looking. That's, you know, not a lot, but there's only 23 people watching us, but there's some people out there that's, you know, go sign it. The only thing I can say is at least there's no commercials. If they're going to call it, because I didn't know, I realized that a show on BBC, because I like some of the comedies, and I don't mean just Keeping Up Appearances or the, you know, the ones that are really well known, or Blackadder or something like that, or Dad's Army. I mean, I like the Chef. I like some of the, because we used to get public broadcasting here. I used to be able to get that on satellite when I was very young. My dad was good to us kids, and he made sure we had some stuff where we could get access to. In the 80s, it was unheard of. And we got access to British and French. I just can't speak French, so I didn't watch your stuff. But I did watch the British stuff. And so I was under the impression that, yes, they played the whole show, and you could tell that there were no commercial breaks. Because if you watch a sitcom, especially a half-hour show from the United States, you notice it's only about 20 minutes long, 23 tops. And then B, there's these segues that happen in the show that you can tell something. In fact, even if you own the disc for Friends or Seinfeld or whatever, there's like it'll fade to black and then come back in that's where the commercial goes. And there's not that commercial. So only thing, and I'm saying, and please sign the petition. I am not arguing against common sense on this. I actually watched On the Offensive video. I'm going to watch yours tomorrow. I agree 100%. I'm very boring on this topic because I would just echo what you're saying on it. It makes perfect common sense that we would, say that no, I mean you can't just. But in their defense, at least they don't feed you commercials. And then what I would say is when it goes, if it was to be turned into something else, what would that look like?
What do you mean turned into something else? The only thing that would be changed for the BBC would be the fact that instead of it getting publicly funded money for pumping out absolutely propaganda and just deciding whatever they wanted to do, they would actually have to fund what they're actually doing and actually become a free market. As in, so
I'm that far behind the times. I'm so far behind the times. I don't understand. David Attenborough is gone. There's no more Birds of Paradise.
David Attenborough is not gone. I don't have problems with individual people. David Attenborough is not gone. He's still there doing Blue Planet.
And I don't mean just so. Let me not get on individual people. So let me put it this way: the BBC doesn't do documentaries anymore. They don't do the nature stuff and the. Is that
they do?
gone?
But they don't need. They do, but they don't need public money to fund it.
So okay? They don't need public money to fund it because I was going to go a different direction because I thought maybe you're saying that there's some good things about it. It's like propaganda. Well, but the nature stuff, some of their, I'm telling you, in my opinion, some of the documentaries and exposés that come from the BBC they're really good.
Yeah, and the thing is with our nature shows, as you probably well know, is that the BBC sell them off anyway to different people so they can play them on their channels, like Channel 5. Blue Planet's also gone across to Animal Planet and a couple of the history channels, and the BBC makes money off of that every time it's played.
Well, of course, I like Life Below Zero, and when you watch that show, I mentioned it here before. I think Matt Barkley, there's a few other people out here that right now that have heard me talk about it. When you watch it, watch the beginning. It's a BBC. In fact, it's BBC because they have full frontal male nudity. There's a couple of those crazy ass Canadians, man. Oh, I say Canadians. What am I saying? Sorry, I take that back. All Americans don't throw rocks at me. But there's some of these crazy ass Alaskans that are just like stripped out naked and jump in the creek when it's 10 degrees Fahrenheit, when it's like -5, -8 degrees Celsius, and taking baths. But that's
sorry. Can I just answer this from Susie Monkey?
Of course.
BBC does make money from selling shows. All over the world. So how many? If you go and look for how many people do what do you call it? Top Gear. If you have a look at how many countries have bought Top Gear, all of them have bought the individual rights to be able to produce something similar to Top Gear off of the BBC all over the world. And that includes people that have bought things off of David Attenborough and things like that, as in the series that they've done, like Life at Zero or Life in the Jungle or Insect Life or Bug Life or whatever. All of them have been paid for to be able to use from the BBC. All of them. Every single one that you see abroad has been paid for from the BBC.
I guess we also have to consider the ones that failed that they paid for that they didn't get a return on.
But it doesn't matter because they're publicly funded. Doesn't matter what they fail at. They're publicly funded.
Well, I'm just saying we're talking about popular shows right now and things that have made it and that they were able to sell. But we also have to consider that they do a lot of other things that just cost them money, is what I'm trying to say. Common sense. So in the end, they want you to pay for something if you have broadcast television. That's as simple as that. They want you to pay a certain amount of money, and if they can go and I think this may be tell me if this is your main point. If they're going to do that, they shouldn't show a certain agenda.
No, my actual main point is that if you're going to change it to a tax and then you're going to tax everything on the TV channels, as in everything that's on the TV, and you're going to charge for it, then the BBC shouldn't be getting any money from it. It should be going back to the government because it's a tax, for a start. And if the BBC are getting money for it and it is supposed to go back into TV, then every British TV channel should get a percentage of that money. This shouldn't be just for one monopoly to have in the BBC. And that's the problem I have, as well as obviously the BBC having so much power where they can go out, collect the taxes themselves, and if you don't pay them, they can get the police and everything else like that and force their way into your house to be able to nick stuff off of you to be able to pay for the bills and fines that you get from not being able to pay the tax. And then on top of that, they still have the point that they can actually throw you into prison for it as well. That's the point that I have. It's the fact that the tax is being collected by the BBC, owned by the BBC, given back to the government, and then the government is giving it back to the BBC. Why?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And I tell you what, folks, common sense, we're getting close to your half-hour time limit here. And I respect that. I appreciate that. But when this is done, because I'm known for long streams and I do want to appease everyone, including the algorithm. So we're coming up hard on 2 hours. And I think it would behoove us if we would take this last 20 minutes to do our final words and make sure we terminate in 2 hours. People love that. They really do. And I need to share some of these with you, common sense, but I get stuff all the time. I'm going to say, in fact, let me look it up. Was it Crumple Point? Oh, yeah, I think it was Crumple Point. If I'm wrong, in fact, Crumple Point's saying something to me right now. There are people out there that, and we look at right now, there's 19 people watching us, and it is what it is. I'm not saying we're huge or we're great or anything, but there are people out there that they had one form of entertainment, and then we've replaced that, and man, it means a lot to me. But that said, I still have to remember. We have to remember that there's other forces at work. It's not just what we want to do. It's not just what we want, what makes us feel good, and what it forwards our agenda. There's these algorithms. There's these powers that be. There's these crazy YouTube censors and gigantic conglomerates of the ABC, which is the alphabet, of course, and that's Google and the lot, the whole gigantic, unconquerable, titanic, mammoth, cyclopean, gibbering madness that is the monopoly of Google. And it's hard for me, common sense, because I'm trying to be eloquent, of course, and be cool, but good Lord, man.
Just a quick question.
They're watching us now. Yeah, go ahead.
You're worried about the monopoly of Google, but when I explain the monopoly of BBC, is that not the same thing?
Oh, no, that's why. Why do you think very astute of you, sir. Why do you think I shot right into this? Of course it is. I mean, we're looking at something that I couldn't even. I'm trying to. I would like to poke a hole in your argument, but my only hole was, do they show advertisements? And the answer was no, they don't. Nope. They just want to charge you. They want to make you pay if you get this service, and then they want to put any agenda on it that they want. That's what I learned from you today.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it. With the TV shows and things like that, British has commented on it quite a lot, to the point where all the shows are following this new social justice point of views. All politics is always left-leaning. You have one right-hand guy, which, go and watch the offensive videos. He explains this so much better than I will. You have a right-leaning supporter that has right-leaning views, or rightish leaning views. And generally, the BBC will always put 2 to 3 people on against him, and that is with a commentator as well that would be against him as well. And our stupid
I highly recommend you go watch Common Sense Guy stuff. I mean, I don't have nothing against the on the offensive, and you can say what you want, Common Sense. I think you might be being humble, but I anxiously await your take on it tomorrow, because anyway, I'm not going to say anything else. I mean, it's just the way it is for me. And very, very humble of you, very humble of you. But I would
my
say,
take on it tomorrow,
as much as I would like for everyone that hears us to watch both. But I'm not going to link on the offensive right now, and I ask you not to. If you want to find it, you can find him on everywhere that you see, and we've given him a lot of plugs as it is. And he does. It's a great video, great video. But for Common Sense, I look forward to yours tomorrow. In fact, is this the one you've already sent me, right, that I haven't watched because I'm a derelict? I'll watch it as soon as we're done today. I'll watch. In fact, this is what I was going into. So we've got this 15 minutes, man, and we're going to do our last words. We have to.
That's fine.
I've got a little disclaimer also. I've defiled. I mean, I want to show the last word as much respect as I possibly can. I will strive to do that. That's all I can say. So as we wind up, Trump's speech, and I believe that it's fair use for me to play the president's speech. And so as soon as this is over, I'm going to see if President Trump has landed in Missouri, as I call it, or Missouri, United States of America, and if he's already delivered or if it's already in progress, and I can start to play it. At that point, I will start to play his speech. I doubt very highly I'll break in while the speech is playing, but after it's done, I will have some commentary. So everybody here is welcome to swing on by then. Yeah, you can do this on many, 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 many channels. I'm working so hard. I've got to do something Common Sense. I want to be able to play stuff. What would tickle me is if I could do this, if I could have this speech playing and you and I were there, and at any time either one of us wanted, we could kind of let the stream, the president would still be speaking, or the prime minister, and whatever we were watching could still be speaking, but we could turn it down and comment. See what I mean? And then we could turn it back up and listen and comment. And that's something that I see other people do. Steven Crowder, I see other people do this. I just don't have it. Pardon me?
We can do that. That's under fair use, criticism, news.
Oh, we can do it. I just don't have the technology. Is what I'm looking for right now. Common Sense. It's not that I think we'd be in trouble for doing it. I just don't have the technology, bro. Like the bumper yesterday. Been talking while I turned it down, but you remember it, like abruptly cuts off. That's why I didn't do it today, because as much as I like a bumper, man, it's difficult to be playing the music that's leading in and then cut it off. I'm doing it too. I'm cutting it off and then thinking about it. Like we said, it's not just people at a pub. You want it to be smooth and whatever. So join us afterwards. By us, I mean me. After this, I'm going to be playing the Trump speech on North Korea and the tax cuts. And then afterwards, probably have a little bit of, 15, 20 minute commentary by myself and those of you that would join and give your 2 cents in the, in the chat.
Did you see, before we go into last word, did you see the comment from Susie Monkey that says, why on earth did Trump retweet Britain First anti-Muslim crap videos?
Oh, that was today, right? I didn't look into that. I didn't look. Do you know anything about that? Yeah.
It might have to do with the fact...
Take over.
Yeah, it might have to do with the fact that the person who did it may or may not be a racist. That's not the point. But the videos that she played were of Muslim gangs. Well, one of them was defacing a statue of the Virgin Mary. The other one was of a Muslim gang beating to death an individual. And these are proper videos. That's the reason why he retweeted that. Death? As far as I'm aware, yes. As from what I've heard.
Oh, Lord have mercy, man. That's just...
That's the reason why.
To me, I'm not triggered, but I've said it many times here. I've learned to deal with it. I've studied psychology my life, and so when these things happen to me, I've always been told in my studies that, oh, you can't do it on your own. You have to go. But that's part of the learning because they want you to go to a psychologist. If you know, but I've learned, and I do, to not sound like a pompous jackass, I do have a counselor that I see. But I was, man, good Lord, I was carjacked, common sense, carjacked. Yeah. After I was at a bar where I couldn't drink, I sell soap for, I was and still am to a certain extent. I just got the clientele, and right now I don't have to do the traveling salesman thing, or I wouldn't have this beard. And I was at the time out on the road selling my soap, and man, I bought these boys beers all night. And when I went to go out and get in my car, a dude slipped in my passenger seat of my Mercury Marquis, and you know, a vicious fight ensued. I took off with that guy. I had the keys in the ignition, so I started it, put it in reverse. He almost fell out of my car because his door wasn't quite shut. But I tried to kick him, and when I did, my foot came off the accelerator. Of everything, that's what I wish I hadn't done. If I had just left my foot in the accelerator, he would have flown out, and I would have taken off. But when I went to kick him, he was able to get back in, and I'm thinking, I mean, I see his buddies out there. I put it in drive, and he started to hit me, bam, bam, and I just, wow. And I mean, Mercury Marquis is a big car, 3.8 V8 engine, 3.8 liter, huge car. And when I took off, I went across this thing, I tore down this fence, and I hit a tree at about 42 miles an hour. And when I did, my head hit the windshield, and the glass went in my eyes. I couldn't see anything. And they drug me out of the car and beat me for 15 minutes. Actually, that's what the barmaid says, but they have it on 911 where you can hear the barmaid on the phone. They had it. They played it. It was tough for me. They played it in the courtroom. You could hear me saying things like, "Come on, boys, can't we just go?" Mind you, the whole time I'm fighting for my life, man. I broke one guy's arm. I bit another. I mean, I'm not going to go into everything that happened. It was a melee, it was a melee. And in the end, people will be people. We can pretend to be something. We can be ourselves. We can accept help. We can deny help. We can be the BBC and say, look, pay us and we'll give you a service, but then turn around and be propaganda. To me, that's no different than what happened to me that night.
Or you could use their actual slogan, which is pay us or you'll pay us later.
Or you'll pay us later. Pay us now or pay us later. Yeah, right. Now, was that, dude, I don't even want to press it because I want to have on the offensive back on. I'm not trying to pick a fight, common sense. I know too much about this. So was that your thing? Did you know of that video with John Cleese?
No. To be fair, that's mostly all of his work. I gave him the idea, as in talking about what was going on, and asked him if he would do a bit on the BBC. I mentioned the tax thing as well, and yeah, he just went on from there. That was mostly all of his work. Well, is all of his work. Sorry.
All right, so let's do it. Look, man. Look now. In fact, I've got to censor myself. We got 7 minutes left, and I really want to go and get on this thing, and I'm going to broadcast the Trump deal, and I've got to go stoke my furnace. I got like about 20 minutes of outdoor work that I've got to do for the farm before I call it a night. So can we do this? Can we give our last words now? Common sense. Before we do this, it's always easy. And you know what my final word will always be, as it always is. Man, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your intelligent commentary. Thank you for today, all the times that you just noticed this happen. And when you seen that red thing flash up there, you knew, oh, Ogre's shutting up. Thank you for coming in and not leaving dead air. Thank you for wanting the show to be great and for sticking in there. And I think I can speak for you and the Britisher and myself and say that we only want this to be entertaining, provocative, interesting, and we want to inform you. So thank you so much. So that said, if there's nothing else, man, I really want your final word. I expect the greatest. I just kissed your ass. And as you talk, I will be sending out your the link to your channel. So I hope you know that. Thank you, sir.
I suppose I'll carry on with the BBC stuff. The main reason why I'm doing the petition and the reason why I'm trying to do this is simply the same reason why America decided that they were going to come off on their own. It's taxation without representation, and whatever the representation is being collected by a public company. It is being taken by public people. It has been held in public banks, which is our tax money, and is actually going, which is actually going to be given to the government to give back to the BBC. I don't understand where the actual sense is in that whatsoever. I never have done. I never will do. To the point that they now changed it into an actual tax. As I said before, they've actually reclassified it as an actual tax. The ONS did that in January 2016, as I said. You've then got to this point now where it's now been changed, as I said, to that tax, which now covers everything in the TV and everything for internet usage and things like that as well. If you're going to use any of the BBC players, if you've got a screen, you've got to pay for the whole TV license. And that all goes to the BBC. My main gripe is on that if you're going to force people to pay for a particular money, and you're trying to say that it's providing a particular service as in paying for the whole of the TV, then by God, it better pay for the whole TV and not just the BBC. Yeah, I did that on purpose. But yeah, that's the reason why I've got such a gripe for it. It's just the point, I just can't see how this is going about, and the government has just allowed this to carry on. And the fact that nobody else has actually noticed it. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm freaking intelligent. I'm not trying to say that I'm a sleuther. It just so happened that I was lucky enough to do some research on a thing because my dad asked me to do a petition on the BBC about it because he doesn't like the way that it's being portrayed at the moment. So I've was asked to do this bit of work because of my little platform by my dad. I've done some research into it and see that it's turned into a tax. And now that it's turned into a tax, it's supposed to be providing a service. It's not providing a service. All it's doing is funding the BBC. That's our tax money, our UK tax money, that is now going straight into the BBC and not into the TV at all. That tax money, if the BBC went private and added its own advertisement and things like that, could be spent back into the economy. I don't mind paying the tax. I don't mind paying the tax at all. I have been doing it for years. I'm sure a lot of people don't. But if you're going to pay for a tax, you want it to go back into the economy, or at least back into the services that it's being used for. Oh, by the way, I did some research as well into this point. It actually, schools and hospitals still actually have to pay for a license. So our tax money that goes into schools and hospitals also goes to pay for the TV license that goes to the BBC. If that doesn't anger you, I don't know what will, and there's no point in me actually carrying on this tirade. But support this by just signing the petition. If you don't want to sign the petition, just send it on, share it however you can. Put it on Facebook so it can share quicker. Put it on Twitter so it can share. I'm not bothered if you sign it or you don't think that the cause is good enough, but just share it to let other people decide for us. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today.
Oh, man, common sense. You kidding? What an honor to have you here, brother. I hope I don't abuse any of my hosts to the point where it would get old or it would get hard. But I really must say, I really appreciate your common sense, your input, your learning curve. You were really stilted when you first got on this show, brother. I gotta say. But now, man, you've blossomed, and I'm sure that because your learning curve has been so steep that we're looking now at something that's going to become better and better and better. And I really appreciate it. I mean, that's from the bottom of my heart, sir. I mean it. So that said, my final word will be this. Two things. very quickly as I wrap up, I'll explain Buttercup if you could just hang on for just a minute, because the first part won't be too long. I'll explain what I'm going to do after this stream here. I'll take about a 20-minute break or so, and I'm going to try to do something. So look, folks, it's tough to know what tyranny is. When we think of the BBC, well, we could look at public broadcasting system here, PBS here in the United States, all kinds of stuff. We could see tyranny that comes through NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all those, whatever, RT, what do Al Jazeera, all of them. It all's the same, that they all have their agendas. I watch Fox News the most because I like Tucker Carlson. To be perfectly honest, I don't really watch much else. Sometimes I catch a little bit of Rachel Maddow because I'm seeing someone that I like, take down a video that this moron did or whatever. It's not a video, because we're YouTube here, but it's actually a broadcast on television, and they take it down because she's an idiot. And she does things like saying, look how terrible Trump is. I've got his tax returns in my hand. He paid $35 million in taxes one year. He's a horrible. I have the words. So we got all that. Tucker Carlson, whom I like, he's the same way. He just goes a different direction. And so, and because I'm piggybacking, yes. So, oh man, the BBC, I feel like, look, I believe, I know, I understand, I want to convey the best thing to do, the way to be, the only avenue through which one may reach enlightenment. The only true path to riches, to fame, to fortune. It's capitalism. Sell the BBC. If you don't want to sell it, well, let someone take it over. Let the one with the best proposal, the one that writes out, the one that takes time, gets their crew together and says, this is what we'll do with this massive platform. If given the opportunity, let them take it over. Let them do it. And yeah, I left money out, but I guarantee you there'll be people willing to pay. I just don't know if money should be the factor, because we have Reuters, we have the Associated Press, we have Fox, all the others I've named. They are owned by 3 entities. And you can look at all the news outlets that you'd like to look at. Understand, you get nothing. You get nothing. You get an echo chamber of the same thing. You want the news? Listen to Common Sense Guy. Go check out On the Offensive. Look at Oozaloo. Look at The Britisher. Look at people that care. Look at The Hard Bastard. I'll mention some people I hate. Because it doesn't matter if I'd like someone or not. I still watch The Hard Bastard. I'm not saying I hate him. I'm just saying I still watch him. Because you need an influx of an idea. You need an influx of ideas, I should have said, plural. You need these things. I need these things. If you don't have them, you don't have understanding. So that said, look, I could go on and on and on. I think I went long. I just heard a deep sigh from Common Sense. That means it's time for me to wrap it up. Check it out here just in a very short time. I'll be re-upping. I'm inviting Common Sense Guy, Buttercup, Captain Coal Pile, everyone that I can see here right now. Susie Monkey, I'm not sure that you would show up or not, but Crumple Point. And I will be playing the speech from the president that I have not listened to yet, and I won't be able to comment on it. This is going to be the unique thing. If I can get anyone to show up, and if no one shows up, I will stop it and I'll comment. But if I can get some people to show up, I won't. All I will be able to do is listen to people say, pause that, Ogre. And then when I do, let conversation happen. And we'll see what happens, what would go through. It's a very, spur of the moment for me. I just thought of this a couple hours ago. And I also want to see where it goes. Because I like President Trump. I think he's a great guy. I think he's doing a wonderful job. Is he a little crazy? Yeah, he says things that he's not very politic. I do like him. And it would be good to get together and see what happens. So listen, folks, be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because Constant Viewer, Captain Coal Pile, Susie Monkey, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life and your cause will depart from you.